times you need a centralized controller. One control you want. You will want control at various points. So you want a central controller. And why? Because you don't want the confusion of losing control over things. So what do you do for centralized control? So when Java started, they started with Java, core Java, and then they came with something known as servlets. So what is a servlet? A servlet is a single place of entry where all HTTP requests come. Wherever from HTTP request comes, it can come from various places, various browsers, various locations. Like this is from IE, this is from Chrome. Here somebody sitting in US, somebody is in Japan, somebody is in India, somebody in Indonesia. But all from wherever you come, you have to go through me, the servant. I'm going to give you a response. So when such a situation happens, you need some pattern to control it. And that is called the SingleTon pattern. So many times, people have this question, why do we need a SingleTon pattern? They start from the first step patterns book. They realize, yeah, we need SingleTon pattern. So when and where a SingleTon pattern is needed, it's very clear now that it is needed in the servlet. So when we code Spring Boot, we use something known as address controller, which is again nothing but a servlet, where all your get, put, post requests go, and then you get a response. Now being said this SingleTon pattern, the question is, how do we implement the SingleTon pattern? So understand one thing, that in SingleTon pattern, at any time we should have only one instance, only single instance of whatever it is, like REST controller. I should have only one instance of my REST controller in my Spring Boot. You cannot have more than one. If you have more than one, then it will get confused. You're going to confuse where should that HTTP request go. So, but how do we do the SingleTon pattern? You know that in Java you have a class, and from the class you can make an object. OBJ. But how do I ensure that I make only one object? Right? Only one and one, not more than that. So you know that to instantiate a class and make it an object, you need a constructor. So for me to give you permission to construct an object of this class, I have to make this public. So anybody who has this public constructor method can create an object. So rather than me making this public, I'll make it private so that you come to me if you need an object. And what I will do is that if an already object is there, I'll give the reference of that object to you. That is the way I'm going to control the instantiation of object. Now this is one single clue I give. Still does not end here that. The first is, instead of making the public constructor, we make it a private constructor or a class. Now can I make a constructor private? That's the question, right? So now let's now what you see is that I made a class SingleTon.java, and I made a constructor as a private here. Why did I make it private? So that I'm the only person who is going to control it. I'm not going to make this as public, so if anybody comes and creates an object out of that. So by doing so, what happens is that if you try to call this constructor directly here in your program, like if I say SingleTon S1 equals SingleTon, use a new keyword, and SingleTon. So what happens now? It's telling the value of local variable is the constructor SingleTon is not visible, right? So why it's not visible? Because I made this constructor as private. So remember, one thing is that it's a no argument constructor, only private. And when I do this, try to call this, it will not allow. It's giving a quick exchange visibility to SingleTon to package. No, I'm not going to do that. Correction. This is the first clue for my SingleTon. Next, what I do, I'm going to create a method. The method will give the object to the caller. So what do I do for that? I'm going to make sure that I call the method. This method will give the instance of SingleTon. Now, in this method, I need to check if an object is already created. If it is created, I'll give the reference of that object. Otherwise, if there is no object at all, then I will create a new object and give it. So this is my method, which I'm going to make it public. And then what I'm going to do is, if the instance is null, I'll instantiate and give. Why return new instance work for me here? Because this is private. Private methods work inside the class. So it will return new, otherwise else it will return the instance. Very important catch here is that this is like a chicken and hen problem. Chicken was first created or hen was first created. If I need to instantiate a class, when there is instantiate a class into an object, and if I need a method for that, since I made the constructors private, I need to have the method inside this class. But that is not enough. If the method is inside the class, I cannot. Methods are generally available to you when you instantiate the object. But yes, it's possible for a method to be available to you to do some calculations inside a class provided you need static. That's why I made the method static. Now inside this method, I need to check if there is already an existing instance of a SingleTon. If it is there, I just need to return that. If it is not there, then I need to instantiate something. Observe this, that the reference what I'm checking, the instance what I'm checking, again, he has to be a member of this class, but you can access it. Generally, by default, you access the members of the class. So the member, if you want to access by default, you have to instantiate. But since first time when you're creating it is not instantiated, I cannot have a member, default member. I have to make this a member of class for which I make this as static. So now I'm going to check the static member. If it is null, then I'm going to return the SingleTon. Otherwise, I'll return the instance. So that's the catch behind making a SingleTon pattern. And how do I call that? I need to call this method, right? So this is the method I'm calling now. SingleTon pattern. And let's see what happens. SingleTon object created. So now this is SingleTon yes1.get instance. That's the way I'm restricting the class object to be only one. And that's the way your REST controller also works. So in order for me to justify where the SingleTon pattern is needed, I'll justify it initially the REST control. REST controller is one such thing. If you like this video, hit the subscribe button and then come up with some more videos on patterns. Thank you.